Greetings, everyone. Welcome to COS Today. Dale Parrish, your host, along with Ken Kashuba, co-host and Indiana State Communications Coordinator for Convention Estates. Ken, it looks like we're connected to Facebook tonight. No problem. So
don't speak so early, Dale.
yeah, I guess I shouldn't jinx this there.
I'll do a test just to make sure, but I'll be welcoming everybody to the program tonight. So.
All right. Well, folks, again, welcome to our broadcast this evening. Got a good lineup for you. As we always like to start off saying that Convention Estates, saving the country with Convention Estates. And Ken, I don't know about you, but boy, just every day I see more and more the need for Convention Estates.
Wow, if it was ever any more evident, I think we'd probably have ghosts coming up out of the graves of our forefathers who would be yelling, "It's time! It's time!"
I think you're right, and I have. Forgot to load a video file here from Marengo Mike.
Oh.
And if you just give me a second, I think I can get it real quick.
That's fine. We can fill dead air until you come up
the program. Please be sure and hit the like.
I'm gonna start him all over here just to make sure.
Right in the middle.
Yeah. Marengo is always right on cue, but so it's my fault tonight. My fault.
Enjoying the program? Please be sure and hit the like and subscribe buttons along with the notifications bell so you'll always know when we go live. We appreciate your support and hope you'll join us on our mission to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Now, back to the program.
Back to the program. Well, Dale, once we're up there, there's one thing I have to add to Marengo's never mistaken speech that he gives, and that is, along with liking and following, we need to encourage people to share too. I mean, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, share the program. You got a couple of friends that don't know anything about it. Maybe you know a little bit about Article 5, or maybe you know a lot. Either way, or you have family members, share the program.
Yep. And and that's something we're as a team we're working on right now, reviewing how we get the word out about our program and about our broadcast, and we're always looking for ways to promote COS Today. So certainly sharing with your friends is a good way of doing it. I'm glad you mentioned that. Very good. Well, Ken, let's get right into our first segment this evening. This is a segment that we've been doing for some time now, and gotten a lot of good reviews. People seem to enjoy it, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And that's called the In Focus segment. And in this segment, we bring on 2 or 3 guests to join us, and we each just briefly talk about what's on our mind right now, what's caught our interest. In other words, what's got our focus here recently in the world and the news. And certain, I know there's not much going on, so not much to talk about. I jest, of course. There's all sorts of things going on, so it's always good. So let's bring on. We got a couple guests tonight, and first young man I want to bring on. And I'm going to, hopefully I get this right, Ryan Noblet.
Yes.
I got it right, Ryan? All right.
Yes, sir.
Ryan is a graduate of our Leaders Launchpad program. As a matter of fact, the director of that program was just recently on as a guest and talked about the program. When did you come out of the program, Ryan?
I'd be May of this year, actually.
May of this year? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, what are you doing now with regard to COS and and as far as your occupation.
Well, as far as COS goes in South Carolina, we actually just had a rather interesting session. So when I was last on here, I talked about our 34 Ready bill and how it got vetoed by the governor. Well, the ride wasn't over, and we had a session, and they managed to override the veto, and it went really well. And we were very happy about that because it was a roller coaster the whole way through. And so we had something to celebrate this year, getting 34 Ready passed. Of course, we're far from done with our advocacy in South Carolina, but we are very happy to get that done. As for my current job, I test websites for accessibility for the United States House of Representatives. I am in a unique position there as I am visually impaired, so I can basically help people understand and give feedback for how their infrastructure works or doesn't for someone like me.
Okay, all right.
Perfect.
Okay, folks, I know. I want you to be sure you caught that. Ryan is visually impaired, so quite an example of a young man making the best of things. So very, very good, very good. Okay, our next guest is a regular that's been on with us for a number of times. Not that she's old or anything. I don't want to imply that.
No.
So, but Debbie Stewart is with us.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you, Debbie.
A COS volunteer here in Indiana, and been a regular with COS today for a long time. So we're always happy to have Debbie with us. So, what's your focus? What's got your interest, Debbie? Let's start with you this evening.
Yeah, so I would like to talk a little bit about the whole Fauci hearing. Dr. Anthony Fauci, that, all the news stations have been kind of focused on this past week. So he was subpoenaed earlier this month to testify before the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee. They wanted a question about his origins of the COVID-19 and his role during the pandemic. So Senator Rand Paul and him are don't get along at all. So Rand Paul was one.
Senator Paul has had it in for him for a long time.
Oh my gosh! Yes, yeah.
Oh, every hearing that he's ever been involved in, they just go back and forth. So I don't know. This was you're not going to take the fifth tonight, are you? You're gonna.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. But
yeah.
How many times did he say? 111 times, I think, is the number that he gave that.
I don't know. I didn't see a total figure, but he did come out with his opening statement and made the comment that, yeah, as you all know, Rand Paul's out to get me, and I've done nothing wrong. So most of you can understand he's got me up here to just find one thing I'll do wrong so he can get me in trouble. And, he was pardoned by Biden for a certain period of time, but they're trying to work outside of those boundaries to see, what it is they can get out of him. He did invoke the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination every time. And a couple days before the hearing, Rand Paul released more than 1,000 pages of diary that Fauci kept. So he had gotten that the month before, something like that, where he was able to get a hold of that.
That ought to be a lesson in itself. If you're in a government position, don't keep a diary. My goodness. And especially if you do, don't keep it on government computers or hardware. My goodness, I can't.
This guy was touted as the smartest scientist on earth. I mean, I'm not sure that all should play out.
I'm not really sure, but he was able to get the journal. Paul was able to get the journal through a subpoena as part of the investigation. And so they're supposedly accusing him of destroying government records. So that was one of the things. And it said that I think they brought this out in the hearing, that he wrote about Donald Trump in his his diary, calling him out of control, a true embarrassment, quote, and an idiot, So, yeah, he's 85 years old. So he's up there too.
I didn't realize he was that old. Yeah.
Even these guys get in trouble. Like they're in their 80s already. So like, yeah. Anyways, he could face charges for any action since the pardon. And so they're trying to see, such as perjury. That's one of the areas they're trying to get him on. He's been before congressional hearings hundreds of times in his career. And like we said, he invoked the Fifth Amendment for all of his answers. And I guess his lawyer got asked to leave because he couldn't sit down in his seat. But yeah, he went off on this thing on his opening statement. It was about the only thing he said besides I plead the Fifth was that, Rand Paul's out to get him. And that's the only reason that he's up there, and some things like that. So supposedly next week, Rand Paul's going to take a vote to see if they can pursue charges on Fauci. That's the last thing and that's this week. So we'll see how that goes.
Now, Debbie, I understand too, and that's going to be interesting to watch. But I understand that the Florida AG is ready to bring some pretty damaging information to Fauci's mailbox, and the fact that everything that he's done, he's not protected on a state level. I don't know whether you researched that or not at all, but from a state's point of view, they can go after him for damages that he did to children in education, to people that lost loved ones, to people that lost their lives in Florida. I'd be interested to see if that really, what happens with that, and then if other states start to join in. I think Louisiana was considering the same thing. Do you know much about that, or is it still too early?
No, I think you're correct in that. I did come across that federally, no, they can't. He's pardoned from a certain period of time to a certain period.
Right.
Anything outside that time or outside the bounds of the pardon or at the state or local level, he can be accused of things. He can be held accountable for things. So it'll be interesting. So many of these times, so many of these things that come up, they'll end up being nothing burgers. Like, was that just a dog and pony show to let people know that, hey, we want to show the American people we're addressing these issues? But I haven't really seen very many people get held accountable for anything. So I hope that's not the case.
Well, and I also thought it was interesting that in Biden's pardon, he pardoned him all the way back to 2014. Well, why that? Why 2014?
Right. Yeah. Why did he need all that pardoning for 11 years, 2014 through 2025? So that's just crazy. And, it's interesting. I don't know if they're allowed to bring anything out of his journal, his diary or whatever. I don't know. And I'm sure there's some things in there that might be incriminating. I mean, they were talking about how he was talking about how great he was. Everybody wants to talk to me when we were going through the COVID thing. But it'd be interesting, like some of the parameters they came up with, 6 feet and the masking and all that they really have the data for that. Where was he getting stuff like that?
Well, I think that's why he wears some high collared shirts, because it keeps his head from falling over, I think.
Right. I know.
Okay, but do you really think this was all a sinister plot on his part, or was he trying to do the right thing but got caught up in all the hoopla?
I'd like to think it went that way, Dale. But you know what? Somebody who gets caught up on that, I don't think would take it to the level he did. So to me, it's a little bit of evil in his heart. I mean, let's face it, we're all sinners, and we all have the same pardon from Jesus Christ if we accept it. But we're all sinners, and I think that might be something that belies Anthony Fauci. It's in the depth of his heart, And I think he saw it and took advantage of it. Whether it was premeditated is something totally different. But I think he might. I think the door was open. Did you have something to say, Ryan?
Oh yeah, a couple of things. One, if you were truly trying to act in the best interests of everyone, and then it was demonstrated that what you were doing turned out to be proven wrong, then the right thing to do was to apologize, to admit the mistake, and to move on. Also,
Amen.
It is kind of clear that the labs that he was running were funding gain of function research, and he did actively try to cover that up. So that does raise questions.
Yeah,
I know those are good points, Ryan. Those are good points. I do understand, and believe me, I witnessed some people that lost their jobs and lost their careers because they wouldn't take the vaccination, the shot.
Oh yeah.
And it was heartbreaking to see that happen. So I understand all that. I don't know. Did he, despite all this stuff, did he in fact maybe save a lot of lives? I don't know. Guess, the worst thing that could happen here is for nothing to happen.
Yep.
And that's I think the bottom line on so many things like this that go on in our government, and nothing ever happens. No one's ever held accountable for anything. So
because that only opens the door for the next person to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is, we just passed the 1.5 year mark in July, mid-July, July what, 20th? That would be 1.5 years. So we're rounding up to 2 years now. And we've seen so little of anybody held accountable, even though there were things that came out, on Epstein and on so-and-so, and then it's for a couple weeks or a month, and then it just goes away and we never hear another word about it. And so I agree that this is going to be, if nothing happens, this is going to cause more damage in the MAGA movement, I feel like, because, once again, somebody who creates harm or does something destructive or illegal against the law gets away with it. So
I almost I almost wish if it's really apparent that nothing's going to happen, I just assume they drop it now and not do it anymore.
Right.
To,
I agree.
To pursue it further and further and further, and nothing happened, it would be even more damaging. You've probably heard me tell this before, but during the COVID thing, I had the opportunity to go down to the State House here in Indiana and listen to some testimony going on by a group of healthcare workers, many nurses, that had lost their job, lost their careers because they wouldn't take the vaccination. It was just heartbreaking. I mean, some of these ladies, and they were still young ladies, but 20 years experience, 25 years experience, and bingo, lost their job because they wouldn't take the vaccination. That was really heartbreaking to see that. So there were some people that really suffered under this.
So with all the talk about healthcare and how we need to fix it and everything, they put a pretty good dent in it back then.
Yeah. All right, Debbie. Thank you. Well, you sure stirred up things here.
I know. I sure was, darn it.
There were some funny parts of that hearing, though, that I heard where he was asking, what does the Fifth Amendment say? And he's pleading the Fifth. I mean, some of that was kind of funny.
What color's your tie? Well,
yeah.
Okay. All right, Ryan. What's on your mind now? Ryan, you're from South Carolina, right?
That is correct.
That was Senator Graham's home
That
state,
was
right?
Senator Graham's state, and he won his primary walking away, and then he unfortunately passed away. And regardless of how you feel about a politician, you don't want to wish that on anybody.
Right.
And so he passed away, and I feel like, how the way that was handled was pretty well. And then they appointed his sister to fill the role, Darlene Graham. And I feel like that was a good tribute, but in the beginning, people weren't really expecting her to run for the seat. Now she is running for the seat. And in most of the polls, here's the interesting thing. So we have another Senate primary now. The primary day is next Tuesday, August 11th. But the polls for early voting open this Wednesday. So 2 days from now, you can vote early in the primary. And so we're likely going to have a runoff. There are several candidates. None are polling above 50%. There's at least 10 to 15% of the vote, maybe a little more, that's undecided. Different polls having a different thing. I was looking at something today that had like 4 different polls, actually 3 different polls, and they had different numbers. So, take what you will from that. And Darlene does seem to be leading in several of the polls. Russell Fry comes in second in 2 of the ones that I was seeing, and Ralph Norman leads one of them. And Ralph Norman is the 5th district congressman. Now, he's already out of Congress. So the implications for this election, Ralph is already out of Congress because he ran for the governorship and he didn't run for his own seat. Russell Fry, however, is still in Congress and is still eligible to be in Congress if he doesn't win this primary. So there are actually some effects depending on who wins this election on the House of Representatives. Because if Russell Fry wins, he's going to have to give up his House seat. And then they're going to have a special election next year to fill that seat. Yeah. So there's all sorts of things that are going on here. And you have Darlene Graham, Ralph Norman, Russell Fry, and Mark Sanford are the top 4, not necessarily in that specific order. But we're going to see how it shakes out this Wednesday. I personally have a favorite in that race for personal reasons, but it's definitely interesting to see. And of course, Donald Trump did endorse Darlene Graham. He also endorsed Pam Yvette, and that got her into the runoff, but she did not get the governorship. So there is a question as to how effective Trump's endorsement is. Obviously, it's gotten Darlene up in the polls for the primary right now, but when it comes to a runoff, that remains to be seen. So we're likely going to have a runoff. That'll be August 25th. And going from there, we'll determine who the next Republican Senate candidate is likely to be the next senator from the state of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me get, if I get this straight now, the primary is to determine who runs as the Republican for Graham's seat, right?
That is correct, because we just had the Republican primary. Graham won it walking away, and then he passed away.
Okay.
And so they're having a special primary, and I think the rules say that only people who voted in the Republican primary, that already happened a couple months ago, can vote in this one. At least that's something I heard.
Really?
So they're having a special primary for the general coming up in November because Darlene's already been appointed. She will fill out the rest of that term regardless of the outcome of the election, because she was appointed to do that. That's how the law works. And in their South Carolina law for Russell Fry, he can legally run for this primary and his House seat at the same time. It's just if he wins this primary, he has to give up his House seat. So it does bring some interesting things. Like Russell Fry can run in this primary, lose this primary, and keep this House seat if that were to happen.
Well, I'll tell you, the margins are so thin in the House and the Senate. It's just every one of these elections can be very, very critical.
Yes, sir.
So it's really hard to stay on top of them. Have you seen the latest news on the gentleman that took Pratner's place in Maine?
Oh gosh, I've heard a bit about that guy. And he sounds similar.
Have you heard the news on that, Ken and Debbie?
I have not.
He's apparently, I don't know if he's married to her or if they are just partners, but they've got 2 children. But it turns out she's his second cousin.
Oh.
Oh.
And
that's nice.
So that has been recently in the news. Of course, I don't know. A second cousin is not that close of a relative, but
not as bad as your brother, like one Minnesota congresswoman.
It can't get any weirder than that, but people try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's an important thing coming up here in South Carolina. So we're going to see. I can almost guarantee you, if I was a betting man, and I don't gamble, but I would gamble on the fact that we will not have a Senate candidate finalized until the runoff on the 25th. I can basically tell you that right now. That no one's above 50%, well outside of margin of error. I think like the highest was like 30%, and then if you add in the margin, it was 50% is well outside of that. So no one's pulling it in that right now. Even when you add the undecideds, it's still going to be a close race, at least close enough for there to be a runoff.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, I know you before we came on, you were talking about the override of the governor's veto of the 34 Ready
Oh
bill
yes.
in South Carolina. You want to tell people briefly about that?
Yep. So South Carolina has to do things the South Carolina way, and so we were basically getting ready to accept the fact that 34 Ready was going to die in the Senate. I talked about this on my last appearance here, and then after my last appearance, actually before my last appearance, it passed out of the committee. It passed the Senate. It went back to the House, passed the House, vetoed by the governor, and that's where we stood, vetoed by the governor, the first time 34 Ready legislation had ever been vetoed. And you know what? The House and the Senate, they came back and they actually overrode the governor's veto. They actually did it. And it's basically a miracle. I mean, you could say it's basically a miracle. And it was great because our champion, Bill Taylor, Representative Taylor, this is going to be his last term. And so it was a good fitting tribute for him that we get this done in his last term as a state rep.
Tell everybody briefly, Ryan, what is the 34 Ready?
So 34 Ready is a companion bill to the Article 5 resolutions that COS tries to pass in each state. And 34 Ready is basically saying, here's a framework for if there's an Article 5 convention, here's the framework for how the legislature will control the delegate process and the commissioner process for that convention. And the good thing about 34 Ready is it applies to any Article 5 convention, not just ours. So it tends to not be super controversial, and it did actually pass with high margins in both houses when it actually came to it. So it was really weird to have the governor veto that bill, but things happen, and we got it through. But yeah, 34 Ready is basically saying, hey, now we have this Article 5. We're going to have a convention. Before the convention happens, we want to make sure that our state is ready with the framework and laws in place for how we will handle our commissioners. And that's basically what 34 Ready is.
Okay, good,
Cool.
good. Because it is up to the states to appoint their commissioners that they want to send to this convention, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So very important, very important. Good. All right, Ryan, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me back.
Ken, what's on your mind?
Well, Dale, I had an in focus thought that I was working on up until the weekend, and so really the most recent focus I have, and maybe I'll have time to get back to the one I was originally working on, but I had an illegal immigrant break into my house over the weekend.
Oh my goodness, did you really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Broke in. I think it was about 6 a.m. in the morning.
Really?
Yeah, and has kind of basically just kind of camped out and is just basically scrunging off me right now. He's enjoying my air conditioning. He's sleeping well at night, and
did you have an opportunity to vet this immigrant ahead of time?
No opportunity. I would have welcomed him with open arms if he had come in legally and maybe knocked on my door. And maybe even prove that he could speak English would go a long ways.
That would certainly help a great deal.
Yeah, no, but so
Did he have any family with him, or is it just him?
I'm hoping not, Dale, because if there's babies involved, then we're really in trouble. I'll be giving up my house in no time. So yeah, I mean, for everybody out there who maybe is questioning, what we need to be doing with illegal immigrations, and I think every American has a heart for immigrants. I mean, we all have I think all of us have at one time or another family that came over from somewhere and passed the test and has contributed greatly to our country. So I'm all for new immigrants, but I had to stop and come up with a name for this immigrant because at this point I don't know what else to do. So I've named him Rocky Raccoon. And I'm hoping that Rocky will take my invitation and leave tonight, maybe.
Might this immigrant be a four-legged immigrant?
Well, I think Rocky Raccoon. I think the name probably gives it away. Yeah,
Okay.
he kind of gnawed his way through a corner of my house and decided to take residence in my wall.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I'm not real happy. I'm not real happy. I mean, I'm glad to give him a knapsack and a couple of Hershey bars if he leaves, but yeah, I'd really like him to come in legally. And I mean, maybe I could make a cage for him and have him stay permanently. But no, I don't like when they come in the way that he did.
I have a serious question, Ken.
Go ahead, Brian.
Do if raccoons come into your house and have kids, do they have birthright citizenship?
I'm afraid you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. And I'm not in any position to take on any. I mean, I can't afford the education of that many new raccoons.
You got to open your heart. You got to welcome in.
Oh, I know.
Do you know, is this a male or female?
That I don't know yet. That's the scary part. I'm hoping.
Maybe it's a trans raccoon. I don't know.
Oh, please.
Well, if she can pass the civics test, then we'll talk.
And that's all I'm asking to do. Get in line and pass the test.
Right, exactly.
I'm ready to build a little shack out the back and let them have at it. I mean,
That's a big of you. You're going to actually give him a little property, huh?
Well, yeah. At this point, I mean, I've got a heart too. I mean, we it doesn't matter whether you're red or blue. You have a heart, but I just want it done legally. That's all. So
this Ryan's point about the babies and the birthright citizenship. That's pretty important.
It's an important one. Yeah.
That could really he could blossom into a whole herd here.
Yeah, because if it comes down to it, I can't even call mice to come take them out.
Did you say?
Debbie just got
it. Did we just do all that just so you could have that line?
That was my zinger. Did
he say mice or ice? He said mice.
He said mice.
I thought he said mice.
Oh, yeah, it took me a while, but I got it. And so
that
was a long lead-in, though.
It was a long lead in, and really, I'll go ahead and get to my point because I know Dale's got a couple he wants to do. But yeah, the other thing that was really on my mind on the focus, getting off the comedy tonight, is basically the term extreme. Now, both sides are accusing each other of extreme left and extreme right, and to be fair, there are some extremes on both sides. I'm not saying they're not, but the problem lies in that the political polarization is a misconception. So instead, basically, really what happens is you have one side, the Democratic Party, and they've moved dramatically away from America's foundational principles, while Republicans have largely remained where they always were. I mean, let's examine some of the things that they still hold on to. Basically, we're talking about things like an enforced border. We're talking about the philosophies that basically have always been part of Republicans, but policies like enforcing immigration law, supporting the Constitution, capitalism, free speech, and the rule of law. They're all framed not as new or radical positions, but really as a continuity with nearly 250 years of American tradition. So that core really hasn't changed much. So the extremism that's being played out in today's media is an illusion. It's an illusion of extremes, because what happens is you have a let's use a metaphor. Let's use a metaphor to see if we can come up with this. So we have two people standing side by side, and if one walks 50 yards left and the other stays put, the stationary person suddenly appears to be far to the right, even though they never really moved. And that's really what's kind of happened, and it's being labeled as extreme. And of course, the media jumps all over.
Very good.
So I mean, that's kind of where I'm coming from tonight. And I just thought, we really need to step back and I think we need to come to expect what happens when we have, our media do what they do on every basis that comes about. So that was my other rant for the night, and I hope you enjoyed both.
Your analogy there is very good. As a matter of fact, I just watched a brief interview with a Democratic spokesperson, and he was talking about he was truthfully talking about the Democratic Party, how far left it has gone, and then he said, and then we got the far right Republican Party, and I think your analogy comes into play here. They moved so far left now that the mainstream Republicans, the common sense Republicans, appear to be far right. So
I guess the surprising thing is, like I said, all those things that I mentioned are basically all American things that we basically have clung to for 250 years. So how does that suddenly become a far right issue, except if you're labeling it that? And again, people who follow the media and the way that they describe things, they look at that and say, oh, well, yeah. You look at the far right, they're just as bad as the far left. Well, let's look at that a little closer. So, yeah.
Good point.
Mm-hmm. I don't know whether I'll throw it another thing. I don't know whether you heard. I know Debbie. We talked about this a ways back, but our friend Carville, I saw something on him today. He's threatening to just leave the party altogether. Mm-hmm. Never heard that from him. And Bill Maher is another one. He's another one.
I've heard about Bill Maher. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically saying, hey, we're done with this. So I think if you're a true blood Democrat, you came up that way, I have no argument with you. I know we don't agree on everything, but if we go back, 20, 30 years, and I had plenty of Democratic friends. We could always discuss things, argue, and walk away friends, and that was fine, but not nowadays. Not nowadays.
As a matter of fact, folks, next week's broadcast on the 10th of August, we're going to be doing a segment on a COS perspective segment on democratic socialism, and we're going to get into the topic of socialism. And I think
that wasn't a pre-scripted segue for you, Dale. I'll take it.
But what you're saying there just certainly pertains. Okay, thanks, Ken.
Your turn.
And good luck with your immigrant there.
Thanks. Yeah,
please update us next week.
I'll keep you updated, sure, and I'll take plenty of pictures if I can.
Yeah, good for you and all the kids that are involved.
Please.
Well, I've got two things I want to talk about tonight, and probably most people haven't heard about either one of them, but especially this one. I grew up in a small town in Illinois, located right on the Mississippi River, across from St. Louis, as a matter of fact, but right on the Mississippi River. Name of the town is Alton, Illinois. And one of the things that we were known for, being right on the Mississippi River, that at one time, centuries ago, the Mississippi River, of course, was a much higher river, and over the centuries and the decades, the river has gone down and down, and what has remained are these bluffs that run along the border of the town along the river. As a matter of fact, there's a road that has been constructed called the River Road, and you can drive up that road and you can look at these bluffs. The bluffs were quite the focus of a lot of teenagers of my time that wanted to, do all sorts of things on the bluffs. Some things very dangerous. But a little town just north of Alton called Grafton, Illinois, has taken upon themselves to create a memorial dedicated to the soldiers of World War II that that were part of the Normandy invasion and the ones that had to scale the bluffs at Normandy. And I've got one picture here. They've created a memorial there, and it's called, correct me, Ken, if I'm right, the National Memorial of Military Ascent.
That's right.
And I'm going to throw up this picture. This is just one of the features that they've created. Isn't that something? I mean, those obviously those are all statues and the ladders and everything, but those are the real bluffs along my town there. And this is to memorialize the men and women on Normandy that had to scale those bluffs in the face of enemy fire. So quite a memorial. I hope to find out more information about this. There are some other pictures of this. What's the website, Ken? I know you looked it up.
Yeah, let me see if I still have that around. I'll get back to you in a second on it, Dale.
All right, but they're creating an actual park here with around these structures. So it's really amazing and very, very good to know. So that's
Dale. The website is graftonmemorial.org. So it's GRAFTON memorial.org. That's the website.
graftonmemorial.org.
Yeah.
So maybe we can get some more pictures at another time, but I thought that was very interesting. The other thing that has caught my attention is an article that I saw, and I wish I could have gotten some pictures, but evidently China is trying to get into our automobile market here in the United States, and they're coming into Canada. Canada is letting them enter Canada with their automobiles. Of course, they can't come in the United States at this point in time. So there are various models of Chinese automobiles coming into Canada, and you can bet they will soon be coming over into the United States. I know some of these models are electric vehicles. As a matter of fact, I read or saw one source. There's apparently a $15,000 electric car model that they offer, which in today's time would be a very low cost automobile.
Yeah.
at that level, and of course they're trying to keep that out of the United States, but that really caught my attention that Canada is bringing them in, allowing them to come in to Canada with these Chinese models and dealerships. So you can better believe that they'll find their way into the United States here pretty soon. So
I wonder how many 10-year-olds they have working on the car lines there. I don't know.
Yeah. So those are the two things that I had on my mind. There's obviously a lot of things going on, a lot of things to talk about, but our time limit's up for this segment tonight. So Ryan, thank you very much, bud, and hope to have you come back and join us again sometime.
Yes, sir. My pleasure. Thank you very much, Dale.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Debbie, don't you go away. Debbie's going to be giving us a presentation on Islam here very soon after a few more things that we're going to do here. So thank you, Debbie, for this, and see you in a bit.
Okay.
All right, Ken, that was a good segment again, as usual.
So,
We
I think
this
so. Yep.
always turns out to be a good segment. So
Yeah, there's always some interesting things going on for sure.
well, let's move right on. And John Ackerman has gotten on his soapbox again and wants to talk to us a bit. I think his topic is Jim Crow. So I think it ought to be very interesting. So let's bring John Ackerman on here. And
Sounds
after John, we'll bring Debbie back on and talk about Islam. So don't go
Okay.
away, folks.
John Ackerman for Convention of States. Calling modern Republican election laws Jim Crow 2.0 is a political slogan designed to provoke an emotional reaction, but it carries a striking historical irony. The original Jim Crow laws were not enacted by Republicans. They were passed by Democrat legislatures and signed by Democrat governors throughout the South after Reconstruction. Those laws enforced racial segregation and systematically stripped Black Americans of their constitutional rights through poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, and other discriminatory measures. Given that history, hearing Democrats invoke Jim Crow against Republicans can strike many observers, including this one, as an attempt to rewrite or overlook their party's own role in creating and maintaining the Jim Crow system. Now, that does not mean that every member of today's Democrat Party bears personal responsibility for the actions of Democrats more than a century ago. Nor does it mean that today's political parties are identical to their historical predecessors. But historical accuracy still matters. If Jim Crow is going to be invoked in contemporary political debates, it should be done with an honest acknowledgement of who enacted those laws in the first place. Reducing complex disagreements over election policies to the emotionally charged label Jim Crow 2.0 may generate headlines and campaign rhetoric, but it risks substituting political theater for careful historical analysis and thoughtful public debate.
There's John with his good old common sense narrative there. I really appreciate John's clarifying and certainly bringing the point home. But that's where that originated from, guys.
You know, I'm glad I had forgotten that, quite honestly.
Really, I had heard it a couple times just recently.
I mean, I've heard reference to Jim Crow many times.
Oh yeah,
but the history behind it, I really had forgotten it. So,
and the trouble with that, Dale, is again we don't go back and learn from our history. We let it get smudged and misrepresented by the media, and then then social media takes it and runs with it, and the next thing you know, we've got a bunch of illiterates. That's what it is.
I mean, how many times have you heard Schumer refer to what the SAVE Act as being Jim Crow 2.0?
Over and over again.
His party is the one that created that.
Yeah. Oh, the hypocrisy. I mean, it used to be if you were a hypocrite years ago, that was not a good thing. You were, that's like wearing a letter A or a scarlet letter on your chest. That was not good. Not nowadays.
No, not now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, John. Another good one from John Ackerman. He's very good about getting us about one a week here. So
yep.
Thanks for that, John. All right. Time to bring Debbie Stewart back on, and let's talk about Islam. Debbie, you're still there.
I'm still here.
Still there? Okay. Now, Debbie, you've talked to us about Islam once in the past. I don't know how long ago it was.
3 times now.
3 times you've talked about that?
This is part 4.
Is that
This isn't really like part 4. This is more just kind of like an update of what's been going on. It's some of the same reiterating, but yeah, just some more recent things and just statistics and, just some things that are happening in our nation and the UK and stuff like that. But yeah, I think this is the 4th time.
So 3.1, Debbie, just call it 3.1.
Perfect.
Well, and certainly, I don't know, maybe you started this whole thing, but the situation has grown a lot here recently, and it seems to garner and get additional growth. It seems weekly as time goes on, but Debbie, give us 3.0 or 3.1 here, and then take it away.
All right, thanks. So just a reminder that as I'm talking about the Islamic goals and what's going on in the Islamic world here in America, that their goal is they want world domination. So there's a lot of religions that come to our nation from other parts of the world, or a lot of just religions here in the United States. But the trend is not to take over and then completely change the culture here and completely change our way of life. So we talked about in the past about how does the Islamic ideology work, and it's very oppressive, repressive for women, for children. There's just not a lot of good things that could come out of parts of that ideology. And so just a few, so keep that in mind. Their goal is to come here. Now, not every Muslim is coming here for that. They're probably coming here to maybe get away from some of those things. I'm not really sure. But as far as Islam goes, the ideology, their goal is complete taking over of a nation. And they use a word called settlement. And everything they work on is for settlement. They migrate or immigrate to a certain part of the world to settle that area. They change laws. They try to implement their Sharia law. Everything they do, they have schools they start. They plan mosques and Islamic centers in places for reasons. It's not just, we just want our religion to be among all the rest. No. Theirs is the only one that should be here, and their goal is that everything else does not have a place, and they are the ones that run everything, and everybody must surrender to their ideology. So keep that in mind. This is not a nice thing that the Islamic world is trying to do, but what they do is they sugarcoat it with, we're really nice people. And we'll just talk about those 4 phases real quick. The first is infiltration. That's when they come over into a country and they're like, oh yeah, we want to be the doctors and, the people that help out in society. And we're really nice. We're quiet people. We keep to ourselves, and we do things differently, but we don't really want to, change any of your society. Okay. Then there's a consolidation of power. That's when they start acquiring land. They start indoctrinating children. They increase a lot of some of their hate laws, like, Islamophobia begins to be a thing so that people won't talk about it. Number 3, there's open war with leadership and the culture. That's when they begin to reject the U.S. government. The Constitution should be taken away, things like that. And then last is a totalitarian Islamic theocracy where the Sharia law becomes the law of the land. So just a little review there. Okay. So just some statistics. In the past 15 years, the Muslim population here in America has grown 73%. That's a pretty big growth. It's the fastest growing religion on the planet right now. Now, it's third because Judaism and Christianity is first and second. It's the third one, but it's the fastest growing one. Right now, there's the number of mosques in 2000 here in our country was around 1,200. Today, around 3,000. So that's 2.5 times the number of mosques. Now, you may not think that's a big deal because, Well, Christians plant churches right wherever we go. The difference is when they plant a mosque, they are saying, we are now responsible for this area. It becomes our dominion, and it should never change until the end of the world. So they are basically saying this area surrounding this mosque is going to go into Sharia law. That is our goal. We will enforce it, and we will make it happen. Okay, so why is all this happening? Why is the immigration, the mosque increasing? A couple things. One, well, let me say that in a better way, what I just said about when a mosque declares, when they put a mosque there, they're declaring the reign of Islam in its area must be kept and protected until the end time. Okay, so that's kind of what their viewpoint is when they build a mosque, or they'll take an existing church, and that's another thing that's been happening here in America is some of our churches are being transformed into mosques. Now, sometimes they build their own from the ground up, Islamic center / mosque, and sometimes they'll take an existing church. Usually, that's either the people have left and it's just sitting there, and they'll take that church over. They'll buy it. They don't take it over, but they buy it and everything. But the increase in the mosques and from the more Muslims is that immigration is a biggie. So when there's some kind of a mass departure from an Islamic nation, we tend to think, oh my gosh, all these people are being displaced, right? And there's some truth in that. But the Islamic ideology is, yes, we're being misplaced, so now this is thrusting us to take over another nation. Okay. There are higher birth rates among Muslims than Americans also, and in English too, if you're talking about the UK. And the third thing that there's such an increase is there's an establishment of new congregations representing diverse ethnic and religious traditions. Okay. So I just thought, Dale, do you have those maps by chance?
I do.
Okay, so
Which
if
one?
you could show the first one, the red and blue one. Not that was the other one.
Yeah, that was the second one.
I wanted to do them side by side, but I didn't have enough time. And I didn't want to make you work
Okay.
too hard.
All right.
Okay. So this is great. This was the electoral map back in 2024, or just our past election. Now I want you to notice the states that have the highest electoral votes. So we got California all the way in the West Coast. 54 is the highest, right? The most populated state. And then if you go down towards the southern end, you see Texas at 40, right? And then keep going along the Gulf there, and Florida has 30. And then we're going to go up the East Coast, and we notice New York is at 28. And then also to the right, those little blue squares off in the Atlantic Ocean, you notice that New Jersey is 14. It's the highest in those blocks. And then if you go to the center of the country, that one blue state, Illinois, is 19 in the middle. And then if you go to the right of Illinois and up, you see Michigan is red, but it's got 15 electoral votes, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states that have the highest electoral votes. Okay, so everybody got the 7. All right, now let's switch maps. Now that was electoral. This is the number of mosques in each state. Okay, the dark blue ones are the ones that have the most mosques. That means the highest population of Muslims for the most part. So California on the West Coast, go down south to Texas, go down to Florida in the corner, go up the East Coast, there's New York and New Jersey. Right in the center of the country, there's Illinois. And to the right and up is Michigan, which doesn't have quite as many. They only have 161 mosques, but they are close behind, and they have a high concentration of Muslim population there. So do you think it's coincidence? And I'd love to hear from the both of you. Do you think it's coincidence that our 7 highest electoral states, I think they're the 7 highest. I might be missing like Georgia's 16 in there, but 7 of the top states are also the states that have the most mosques.
Oh, I think it's just a coincidence, Debbie. You don't think there would be anything,
Strategic.
plan here.
No, nothing sinister or strategic,
No,
right?
no, not at all.
And what
Very
party do you
interesting.
think
Very
that-
interesting.
what party do you think most Muslims will vote for, the Republican or the Democratic?
Huh.
Gosh, I think they'd be independent, wouldn't they? No.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting that it's really the same map.
Yeah, it
We could
is.
lay one right on top of the other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So that was amazing to me. So there is a strategy here. And although Texas and Florida are red states, they are Texas has about 330 mosques in the state, and it's the highest red state is Texas. And California is around 350 mosques. They don't have the quite number, but I just took the average from what the highest and the lowest thought. But Illinois has 180, New Jersey 200. Look how small New Jersey is. They are loaded with Muslims and mosques. Florida has 191, and then New York has about 186. But the point I'm trying to make is everything is growing by leaps and bounds. The Muslim population is skyrocketing. The number of mosques are skyrocketing. And so there's definitely a push now. Remember the 4 phases. They're pushing in phase 2 right now. Okay, so they've come here. They pretty much set up, we're peace-loving people. We even had presidents say that, and that these people are, but yes, some of them are, but the ideology that comes along with that, which is Islamic, okay, does have a goal and an end in sight that they're trying to go. And they have a 100-year plan here to take over America. You can look it up online. It's out there.
Are they coming in as legal residents? I mean, are they coming in and earning citizenship, or how is this? Or are they coming in on temporary visas or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know what the breakdown of that is, but I know when Biden opened the borders, I'm guessing we've got a lot more that are not citizens.
Yeah.
And that maybe don't have visas because everybody was just undocumented. They just came in here. So that would have been a great time for the Islamic organization to say, hey, let's get as many people in there as we can. And, they tend to be younger and they're more educated. A lot of people that are Muslim, it's kind of part of their culture, that they're serious about schooling their kids, and, they do a good job with that. I don't like everything they're teaching because they indoctrinate them into the Islamic beliefs and stuff like that. But so there's definitely a growth going on there. And the last time I did this show, you called it, where's the point of no return?
Right.
Where do we get so far into their plan that it's really hard to reverse what's going on? Now, the other thing we see is their jihad, which is a way to kind of take over. Their jihad is like, how do we go in and take authority? It's our fight. Who are we fighting? Anybody who's anti-Islamic. They are saying now is the ballot box. It used to be bombs and, wars and military. And so as you've noticed, there's been a lot of people that are rising up in cities and towns. Look at New York, mayors, right, that are Muslim. And then when that happens, part of their strategy is then, okay, well, I'm gonna hire other Muslims and get them voted in to all these leadership positions too, which is kind of like what Dearborn, Michigan did, right? So they have a lot of Islamic control in their area. So that's a big thing that's going on. So now the thing that's been coming up lately, and we've heard about it in our state of Indiana, is the Adhan, which is the Islamic call to prayer. It's spelled Adhan, Adhan. And there are actually cities now, major cities in the U.S. that are allowing for 5 times a day the call to prayer. So actually, and here's what typically I notice is happening is it's a gradual thing. So, let's just do it during Ramadan to help them celebrate. So we'll let them do it like 2 days during Ramadan or a couple days, and we'll let them do it like twice. 2 out of the 5. And then it turns into more. And within a year or 2 or 3, now they're doing it 5 times a day, every day. So Minneapolis, Minnesota was the first major city to implement this back in 2023. Now, what was the mayor's name of New York? Was it Eric? Who was before Mamdani? Do you guys remember who it was?
Was it Adams?
Adams. Yeah.
Okay. So he said they could have some of that. Okay. But they couldn't do early morning and they couldn't do late in the evening because it's 5 times a day. But
And,
Mamdani.
these are over loudspeakers, right? I mean, these are not.
Yeah. And they travel like a mile. That's how loud it is. Now,
Yeah.
what the city can do is turn down the decibels, right? That's the one thing. You do have to abide by the city laws. So now New York City is now, Mamdani changed it. You can do the call 5 times a day, all the
Really?
time now.
Really?
So now, what's interesting is they're like, oh, we have church bells ringing. But I thought that what was really interesting is this Adhan is recited by a Mazuran is a muezzin from a mosque. It's a devotion to Allah, the Muslim God Allah. And I told you it could go over a mile, but listen to what it's recited in Arabic. You guys have probably all heard it on the movies or something, but here's what they're actually saying. Now, every time the word God, capital G, is used, it means Allah. So this is being proclaimed over our land. It's in Arabic, but it's still being proclaimed. And the way the Bible works is God spoke a lot of things, and so did his people. And they spoke over regions and lands, but it says God, Allah, is most great. I testify that there is no little God, but big God, Allah. I testify that Muhammad is the messenger of God, come alive to prayer, come alive to flourishing. God, Allah, is most great. And then they say it again, and then there's no God, but, and then they use, that's God again, big G, Allah. So that's what's being spoken over our land 5 times a day. Now, if you're a believer, things happen in the spiritual realm, right? And that what we speak, we have authority when we speak things. So that bothers me that that's being spoken over our cities 5 times a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But I did not know that that's what it said. So the big ones are Dearborn, Michigan, Patterson, New Jersey, Astoria, New York, Queens, New York, New York City. They are all doing either during just Ramadan or all the time.
Wow. Wow.
Dale and Debbie, we've got I've got a couple comments. I think we could probably address a little bit here. I'm going to show the 3 comments and then ask a few questions. Maybe disclose a little something here that maybe is being misunderstood. We have a viewer named Eric Dongus, and he says, you are worried about immigration, yet you allow, I think not falling, I think he meant failing DCS systems in the states you represent. So I think my first question to Eric would be, who are the ones that were well, I mean, let me get to a second comment because it really finishes up on that statement. He also says, pick on immigrants, but fail the most vulnerable and bury your head in the sand. I'd like to know from Eric who the most vulnerable are, and what's what isn't it illegal immigration that's causing the vulnerability of these people to be hurt more? I'd ask that question. Who is the most vulnerable, and what's the reason for that? And then if you go back, I'd like to hear him. Can you go back to the 4 years prior and give me some examples of how that was solved? Was there anything being done over the vulnerable back in the Biden agency?
What was it?
He follows it up with the last one here, which I hope that you'll be able to answer a little bit. Would it be different if it was the Lord's Prayer during Lent?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, those are. Okay, so let's go back to the DCS. We're talking about children here, right?
Right.
What is DCS? What does that mean?
It's the Department of Child Services, I think.
I believe that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so first of all, we just did a thing on child trafficking a couple weeks ago. So we were all totally on board with there's something seriously going wrong with all of that. And we had all the stats, and we were very saddened to know that within our DCS system, it's happening. And it's interesting because the Muslim religion, because they believe that men can marry young girls, 8, 7, 10 years old, and they can do what they want with these kids, which makes it worse. But that's not typically the DCS system we're talking about here. Right. They are the most vulnerable. But we did do a whole show on that a couple weeks ago. So Eric, you probably didn't see that, but we are all totally on board that, that what is going on in our nation. We're the worst of all the nations when it comes to children. And that is very disheartening. And we are talking about how do we get on board with that here in Indiana? How can we help at a local level? I put out a text to one of our governing officials and asked them, hey, how can we? And I know, Dale, you did some research in that area, right?
Yes. And by the way, we've uncovered a good possible person to talk to about what's going on, at least in the state of Indiana. With
excellent.
So,
and I know recently
more coming on that.
I know recently there was, I think there was, I don't have the number on the top of my head, but I know just recently we actually were able to save. I think it was maybe over 100,000. Maybe I apologize, I don't know the number, but there was a recent collection of many children who were sex slaves and sold into all that. So I think it's being worked on. But yeah, it's something that I think is drastically wrong. And again, I point out the fact that when it was over 300,000 of them that came in during the Biden year. So where's the
it's almost 500,000. So,
whatever it was, it's still, where's the finger pointing there? I mean, why is it okay for that to be dismissed and then get on board when you've got an administration that's at least trying to do something about it?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure how he was making the connection with what we were talking about. Is he saying we should be talking about children and not this? Because we just did a program on that.
That's why I thought we should address it, because it was a little confusing to me. And then, of course, when he followed it up with we burying our heads in the sand. I think that's just, I don't know where that comes from. I'd like to see him back that up a little bit, because at least we're doing something.
Yeah, and and you're right. I mean, in some respects, he's right that a lot of Americans don't know what's going on.
True.
In DCS. And there are lots of people in foster care that think they're helping, but they're just making that 15th month mark where the kids can't see their parents ever again.
Right.
We talked about that too. And it is super sad. And we have got to do something about that. That was our prior program. This one was the one on the Islamic ideology. So what was the other question you had after that? I can't remember.
He's saying that basically, would it be different if it was the Lord's Prayer during Lent? Are we actually doing the Lord's Prayer over loudspeakers during Lent? I don't get the connection. I don't know.
Well, there's two issues here. One is we are founded as a Christian nation.
True.
If you read our Constitution and you read our DOI, our Declaration, you can see that God and most of the things in those documents were taken, especially the Constitution, but our founding document, the Mayflower Compact, a lot of those original documents came right out of the Bible. Our 3 branches of government, things like that came right out of the Bible. And so, I've got a chart of so many documents that came from the Bible. That's the first thing. The second thing is most people who would say the Lent prayer or the Lord's Prayer aren't doing it over a loudspeaker that covers a mile all the way around. And they don't do it like 5 times a day where everybody outside the church grounds, the neighbors are all hearing it. We could be specific, like the school down the street. I hear the marching band every Friday night, and I live however far away, but, if they say a prayer, but I think for the most part, we were founded on Christian principles. And I don't really see any churches that are blaring that over the loudspeaker 5 times a day. Well, I think we would have complaints. I think we would have complaints if we did that.
Yeah. And I think, Debbie, the other thing and I don't want to go down a rabbit's hole on this, but I've seen a lot of discussions in social media where people really have a misunderstanding of separation of church and state. And we don't have the main purpose of that is so the government it cannot establish one religion. That's really what
Right.
it's about.
Right.
Yet it's totally taken out of context and misrepresented, and a lot of people don't understand it.
There can't be a state church. That was the point, that the government stays out of the church, not the church out of the government. That's
right.
Congress still, from the very first Congress till now, they still pray at every single meeting.
So I think at this point, if the Muslims want to have their 5 times of prayer, rather than blasting this over the loudspeaker in the middle of the day, run it on their speaker system inside their mosque. Nobody's going to complain, and nobody's going to stop them. They're free to do it. That's the freedom of religion.
Yes, and I think that's what they've been doing for years. It's been inside the mosques and Islamic centers.
Right.
But they're trying to change our culture so that it's like it is in Islamic countries, where the whole nation has to go along with the 5 times a day.
Okay, guys, we gotta wrap this segment up. So
Okay.
Thanks, Debbie. I know. When we get comments, we do like to answer them, and I think you did.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have anything else, Debbie? I didn't mean to cut you off.
There's plenty more that I had, but I know we're out of time. But it's just, I think we need to keep our eyes wide open, that the way people present something and the way it really is can be different. And that's how the enemy works. He lies, he moves around, he presents things as, just, we've seen that in politics all the time. And so we have to go into this thing with our eyes wide open. We need to pay attention to what's going on in our community, in our state, in our country. And we need to be able to stand up for what's right, along with, we are a constitutional republic. We are not a democracy, and our Constitution does not allow for Sharia law here.
Well said.
All right, we'll wrap it up on that. Very good, Debbie. Thank you very much.
All right.
And I think this was a 3.1. So I think there's a 3.2.
Oh, I don't know. I think we're running out, and now it's like, what do we do about it? Right.
Yeah.
That's really where we're at, I think.
All right. Good. Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Debbie. Thank you.
Bye.
Hi, Debbie.
All right, Ken. We had. Do we have Gary's video on wealth inequity?
Yes,
Well,
you'll have to give me just a second to find it. So when I find it, it's going to go to play immediately, because I don't have any control other
now,
than sending it.
We're running a little bit behind schedule tonight.
All right.
You want to hold? Should we hold that one till the next broadcast then?
Let's hold it till next week. I'm sure Gary won't be too mad at us.
All right. Okay. Well, let's move into then an interview that I did here recently. This is part 2 of our series on nuclear power.
Ooh, okay.
And I'm telling you, Ken, I'm getting more and more interested in this topic. Really.
Yeah.
I think nuclear power is going to be, I think, the savior to our energy program here, especially as it comes to these data centers, these AI centers. I think this is going to be the power of the answer to the problem, not only of power, but cooling these places.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think the president recently just announced a much more movement toward the use of nuclear power. But the gentleman that we interview here, Mike Connolly, is very, very good. He's
Very
an author and an expert on this, and we're gonna be bringing him back for part 3. This is part 2 that we're going to be talking about here. So let's go ahead and get that going here. Okay.
Sounds good.
Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS Today. Well, we're going to have part 2 of our series on nuclear power. We're going to be talking about renewables versus nuclear. So I want to, without hesitation, I want to bring on Diana Tellis. Hello, Diana.
Hi there.
Diana is the State Communications Coordinator for Ohio. And our special guest and expert and author and general, nice guy, I guess, Mike Connolly. So, Mike, glad to have you.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, guys.
All right, guys, we're going to talk about renewable versus nuclear. Diana, I'm going to let you take the lead here and try to keep Mike on course here. Try to steer him in the right direction. Okay.
Well, Mike, thanks for joining us all the way from LA today. Mike has co-authored a book titled Roadmap to Nowhere. His co-author is Timothy Maloney, and it does say a reality check on renewable energy, which is a fascinating topic. And he has shared with me chapter 1, which I have read now twice. And the chapter is titled Speaking Truth to Intermittent Power, which that chapter title alone makes me want to read the rest of the book for its sheer cleverness and the fact that there's clearly a story to be told. So we've discussed this already on this podcast about nuclear energy, and I'm a proponent of nuclear, as is Mike Connolly and your co-author. And we discussed the technology. That technology has arrived. We're punching through the bureaucracy. Ideally, we do know that Trump has recently mentioned, again, it's not the first time, but as a proponent of nuclear and needing to bring this to the forefront, it is mired, I do believe, in bureaucracy, although it's not completely mired because we've got like 90 nuclear power plants in this country already. But the renewables is a really big topic. We're seeing the windmills. That includes what? Solar?
Basically solar and wind,
water.
Yeah.
So it's an attractive thing. And your book is not totally an argument against renewables, but you do bring, you're pushing out that model both in renewables and through nuclear, and the renewables just doesn't check out. So is this what your book is doing? You're disagreeing, but tell me a little bit more about that and that model for renewables versus nuclear.
Well, the big groovy, super popular proposal for renewables is Mark Jacobson's roadmap, in which he proposes that the country could run on 100% wind and solar with a bit of hydropower backup. And that's all power, not just electricity. That's fabricating synthetic fuel, switching things from fuel to electric, blah, blah, blah. And so we just added up everything in his proposal. We broke it down. We figured out how many, which he does not state, how many panels, how many wind turbines, how much land it would be on. And the numbers are just jaw-droppingly ridiculous, to be not polite about it. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just it's a ludicrous proposal. It's fantasy. And we break it down with simple arithmetic and plain language, what it actually would involve and what it would actually cost and how much space it would actually take up and how much waste it would actually generate, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like nuclear is just like way better of an idea. And so we just use his numbers in his proposal to knock his proposal down to size. And just to be clear right up front, we are totally behind and totally in favor of local solar. If you got a parking lot cover and you put solar panels on it, we love you. You know, if you got a house and you got solar panels on the roof, you are good in our book. You know, but the idea of running the entire country on wind and solar is like saying, well, my paper airplane works good with these rubber bands, so we're just going to build a big airplane with 1 billion rubber bands and everything will be fine. Mm-hmm. You know, it does not scale. Okay.
So in your chapter that I read, you state that renewables plan ironically ensures fossil fuels. Really, that there's even without the nuclear comparison, it ensures fossil fuels, right?
Yes, and the reason why is, and when we granularly studied his plan, and his plan has 1/2 day of energy, on-demand energy storage for the entire nation. In other words, you can run the entire national grid for only 1/2 of 1 day with all the storage, the energy storage that he proposes, because he has this presumption that enough wind and solar will work so well and back each other up. You know, oh, you're cloudy, we'll send you some juice. You know, that we don't need any battery backup. But his proposal also lists the total electric output of the national dams, which is a cheat in our view on his part, because it is making it look at a casual glance like his program has buku storage, like 2 grid weeks. In other words, run the entire grid for 2 full weeks with storage. And you break down what a storage is, and it's the power, the potential power behind our hydropower dams. And to assume that that could be a national battery that could be whistled up on short notice when someplace gets cloudy is, I think, wholly unreasonable and awfully misleading, because he only actually has 1/2 day of energy storage. And would you feel safe if this country was running on no fuel, just wind and solar, with only 1/2 day of energy backup in case the weather doesn't work out?
No, I think Texas's problem a few years ago was an excellent example of that it doesn't play out well. So here's a funny thing that I can't believe. I think I had to read it twice. The fossil fuel industry is the one who is funding the research on renewables. Is that because they want them to conclude that it's a load and it's not going to work and it's bunk?
Well, no, the fossil fuel industry is promoting renewables because they know that a build out of renewables will necessitate fuel backup. And of course, their fuel of choice is carbon fuel. And our view is simply, well, people have a problem with carbon fuel, which we do. You think that the rational alternative would be carbon-free fuel rather than fuel-free systems. And so Jacobson is taking us back to pre-combustion days rather than advancing beyond fire and combustion to a new form of carbon, not a new form, but a form of carbon-free fuel. And so it's just so like this bizarre sort of Luddite-ish response to carbon fuel. It's just like, we'll go forward, don't go back.
Right, where nuclear is right there within reach and is.
And it's been proven for 70 years to be eminently effective.
Right,
yeah,
right,
exactly.
Right. So what makes renewables so attractive? Like why is it that there's probably I don't know, a swath of the American public that wants to believe in it, right? That because it's attractive.
There's a couple of there's a couple of interlocking reasons, and one is that nuclear has been associated with nuclear war.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the left, particularly, I'm a social democrat. I mean, I'm sort of left flavored. The left, my tribe, has this thing about nuclear power. And I'm like, dudes, wake the hell up and read my book, and so it's sort of been associated with war. And there's a big thing that's been drummed up about the danger of the waste and the radioactivity and the cancer and all this other stuff, which is like totally debunked in our books. It's just like a way overblown fear. I'll give you a perfect example. Okay. 3 Mile Island partially melted down in 1979. And there was a downwind release of radioactive material and the whole nation flipped out. Remember that?
Oh,
I mean, the whole nation flipped out.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
You know what the radiation was downstream? The average dose was 80% of one human chest x-ray. The highest dose was 10% higher than a human chest x-ray.
You never heard that. You never heard that said.
There's numbers on it. It's like proven indisputable. That is the fact. Because what happened is the country flipped out before the measurements and the analysis was done on the actual effects of what happened downstream. All it was is nuclear plant releases radioactivity. Oh my God, we're all going to die.
So
Don't you think people that I'm trying to think of the term. I want to say fairy tale, but it's another term that we see all this air, we see this wind, we see the solar. It's all free. Why can't we use it?
That's the allure then of renewables.
Well, that's another allure. The other allure is it's free, but it's very expensive to corral it and dispatch it where it's needed, when it's needed, and to store it for a rainy day. Right. So that is hugely misleading. And also there's this I think fantasy or not really well thought out scenario where people
Fantasy.
go, well, I have solar on my roof, and so we should run the whole country on solar. It's like, dude, have you ever been to General Motors?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about the amount of electricity it takes to make the groovy hybrid car you're driving?
Right.
You know.
And what about the waste? It's not waste free. Solar is not as clean and pretty as everybody seems to think.
No, they throw up that picture of that building, and I'll walk you through it. It's just jaw dropping.
What are we looking at here?
This is 432 Park Avenue. It is 1 block south of Central Park. It is on Billionaires Row. It's one of the hyper-scrapers, those super duper skyscrapers they built in the last 15 years. It's crumbling. People can't wait to move out of there. But aside from that, we picked this building because it is the volume of solar panel waste that 1 week, actually 7.6 days, of Jacobson's 100% wind and solar national plan would generate.
In 1 week.
And we have the numbers down to the cubic centimeter. We are not exaggerating. If the volume of that building that you see there, if it was totally it was replaced by nothing but tightly stacked pile of solar panels to equal that volume and shape, that would be 7.6 days of Jacobson's plan. Not only that, but 95% of the polysilicon that goes into the solar panels is either processed or mined in China.
Yep. That's enough.
Not only that, it costs $1 to $2 to throw a panel into a landfill, and it costs about $30 to recycle it to get the material out of it.
Amazing.
And that's just his solar. We haven't even discussed his 394,400 wind turbines, 40% of which will be in deep sea, occupying 46,000 square miles of sea parcels. Per his spacing estimates, not NREL's. NREL, National Renewable Energy, I think, says that it would take 60% more space than what he claims. We went with his figures, very optimistic figures, and it's still 46,000 square miles offshore.
I've got 44,000 solar farms, 11,000 onshore and wind farms, 170,000 offshore and wind turbines.
Wind turbines, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we can take a look at that Texas map and I show you the breakdown on that.
What are we looking at here? Offshore wind. So, okay.
Well, everything. We smushed all of Jacobson's stuff and nuclear into the state of Texas to give you an idea of the scale of land required.
Okay. So the
new transmission corridors, those are new wiring, not existing. This is in addition to what we already have, the corridors.
Wow.
The solar farms, and then the offshore wind. You see the numbers there. Rooftop solar, and the rooftop solar is in square miles because that's how much roof it is. You know, and again, we figured that out based on his spacing estimates, the elbow room that he thinks wind needs and that he thinks solar needs. So these are his numbers essentially, and we compare it with the nuclear box down below. The bigger box is old school big jumbo reactors that we now have that are water cooled, you know, the big plants, right? And they would take up to replace his system with nuclear power. We would only need that much land. And if we use Generation 4 reactors, which are self-cooling, it only takes 375 square miles.
I think the Dallas Cowboys would have to find another home, I believe.
The transmission corridors are like that nationwide network of connecting network, right? Yeah. Transmission, right?
And these are the new corridors that he would need to implement his program above and beyond the existing corridors, whereas nuclear power can use the existing corridors because most of the nuclear that we propose will replace gas and coal plants, and you can put a small reactor on the site of a dismantled dam because the corridor still exists. So all these coal and gas plants have existing corridors. So take out bad heat, put in good heat. That's our solution. And most of his solar and wind, onshore wind, will be on new space, greenfield space. Almost all of nuclear will be on brownfield space. Okay.
Yeah.
And
So you say that despite the fact that you find fossil fuels burning it is dirty, and that it's a shame we're breathing it in, but it's still better than than the alternative of this huge renewables plan that you've debunked in your book. Would be better staying put. However, we've got nuclear, and there's so much something so much better on the horizon. We just need to get there. So
well, yeah, it actually exists. We just need to roll it out and implement it, and quit
out.
freaking people out with BS scare stories about we can't have another 3 Mile Island. Oh my God, you got a chest X-ray. I'm so sorry. How do we?
I really do think that fear factor is still out there, very strong, very strong.
Yeah. For one, nobody will ever build a reactor like Chernobyl again. Ever, 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 ever. And people keep bringing up Chernobyl. That's like bringing up the Ford Pinto when you're talking about automobile safety. It's like, yeah, we know that. We're done with that. We're not going to do it again. Why are you bringing up the Pinto?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we have 94 nuclear power plants in the United States. Is that correct? And
something
how long?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
How long have they been there?
Oh, gosh, I think about 30, 40 years. And many of them are now being inspected and granted extension licenses because the original concept of nuclear power was that it would last 40 years, the plant would, and the reason why that number came about is because that's how long the loan lasted, and they didn't really know how long the reactors would last, so they just figured, well, that lasts the life of the loan, so we got this 40 years. Well, actually, they're lasting 60 years, and they're being inspected, and I think a couple of them, 3 of them, just got okay to run for 80 years. New nuclear is predicted to run for 80 years. The metallurgy is better, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. You know, and with a small modular reactor, every single solitary part of the entire reactor can be replaced, including the core itself. And so in practice, a small modular reactor will last, quote unquote, forever.
Right. You just take out what needs to be replaced, and it's. Yeah.
It's like I describe it in the book. It's like a boy band with no original members. I mean, it's like it doesn't matter. It's still the same music. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Roadmap to Nowhere lays this all out. You build it out. You build out the renewables model against the nuclear model, and you can find that book at www.mikeconleyauthor.com or on Amazon. I found it kind of all over. And that out right now. And there's live links in there if you buy the ebook, correct? You've got a whole the
Roadmap to Nowhere isn't out yet, but my other 2 books are, and they're actually serve as prequels to Roadmap to Nowhere, and they give people a background understanding of radiation and what's dangerous and what's not, and how the nuclear fear all came about.
Okay.
And et cetera. So then when you read Roadmap to Nowhere, you're educated on the real facts of the matter, and you can look at it objectively instead of going, well, yeah, but Chernobyl.
This is like the Federalist Papers or something.
I'm telling you. I mean, I've been in this field for 15 years, and Roadmap to Nowhere is my opus, and the other 2 books are the prequels leading up to that, and they serve as a trilogy that we want to roll into textbooks.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're happy to know it. We appreciate you being here, and you just keep coming and paying us a visit and keeping us informed. We very much appreciate it. There you go. Very good. Thanks, Mike. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, Diana, another great part with Mike. I tell you, this topic, just every time we talk to him, it just opens up more things to talk about. Right. So
it definitely has a lot of aspects to it. We could dive all over the place with it, and I'm grateful because I'm glad to know this is out here, and I'm glad to have good pragmatic explanation of how this all works and why people are against it. And we can all educate each other as we move forward, because this is here. It is here, and it's coming, and we may as well understand it.
Listen, on the next part that we do, and I hope you will do another part. Let's promote his books. Let's put his books up and maybe some links and so forth, so people can know where to find them and so forth. So,
What topic do you want to do?
pardon me.
What topic do you want to do? Like, where do you want me to go with it?
I'm really what he was saying about the brain.
Oh, you want to go there? Oh boy.
I kind of like that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. You're insatiable in the stuff you latch onto. It's all good. You gotta keep
You're getting me.
coming.
You're getting me really hooked on this. I'll tell you.
Oh, he's a great guest. He's so easy. I just start the conversation and he rolls. So
Okay.
is he gone? Did he log out?
No, he's still there. You
Oh.
want to bring him back?
Yeah, bring him in and then I'm
Yeah,
gonna
bring
go.
him
I
back.
gotta go
Yeah.
babysit.
You're
Hi, guys.
talking about you, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I heard it was really groovy. It was wonderful for my ego. The brain organelles, check out Cortical Labs. They are the
Cortical?
company, Cortical Labs. They're putting out a gizmo the size of a bread box, and it has 80,000
Yeah.
whatever in it, and it learned Pong in 5 minutes versus AI in 90 minutes.
How do you spell the cortical?
Cortical, Cortical Labs, like cortex, like frontal cortex, Cortical Labs, and it's scary, but I really think it's going to go that way because the energy differences are, it's ridiculous. And they've devised this chip that's so cool. The organelles, they grow on this grid that are little gold prongs, and so when the organelles contact or communicate or send messages or energy to each other, that's registered. And so maybe they can finally figure out how AI thinks. But anyway, it's a way to put data in and get data out of these brain cells.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's
All right.
scary. It's scary cool. Yeah. But we regarding future, I would really wish we could do a long form special thing where we talk for a couple hours, then you put it out as a special thing to your people, because it's so interwoven and there's so many issues that pop up, and squeezing it into 20 minutes leaves too much dangling and too much unsaid. Like we didn't even get to the soda can versus the solar panels. That's another way of showing and by the way, that soda can, one soda can has enough, or you would have enough uranium to run your entire life, and everything you use and everything, right? That right there. And that's like everything, not just your electricity, but all the energy that went into making and producing every product and object that you own and have and use. Okay.
Wow.
Those cans would fill up that skyscraper 1/3 in 80 years. Solar panels will fill up the skyscraper something like 3,000 to 4,000 times in 80 years.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Much more to come then. Great. All right, Mike, Diana, that's a wrap for today. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks, Diana. Thank
Thanks.
you. Well, folks, that's a wrap on this part. And I don't know about you, but every time we do something on this, I get more and more interested in it. So I think we'll definitely get at least another part 3. So, and maybe some more. So that'll be it for this time. And have a good evening. Is that interesting or what? Huh?
Yeah, it is. I have 2 questions for you. One that's from our viewer comments, and that's from our friend Rick Lyons. And this is something that maybe you can make note of or pass along on the next segment of this nuclear, just fascinating segment. Rick wants to know, what is the new technology discovery that is enabling the small modular reactors that fit in a semi-trailer?
Okay.
That's his question. So we need to make note of that and get that over to Mike so he can possibly give us some insight on that. My question basically is, after listening to all this and certainly looking at that can that could just solve so much, I'm wondering, part of convention of states is to kill our overreaching and overcooked and overbaked government. And when I look at that, and certainly look at some of the other large corporations that are intertwined with our government and so on and so forth, and a lot of it that comes down into energy, what kind of fight is that, or would that be in for to get some of that just working? I mean, do you think the suppression of what Mike is talking about there, and how much it would solve? Do you just see a government pushback on that, or do you think it's something that we would readily adapt to and promote? I mean, I know Elon Musk would probably be on with it because he's a thinker. He's a forecaster. He looks ahead. But let's face it, our government is entrenched in mud.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good question for him.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. It's certainly.
No, I wasn't looking for the answer from you. I'm just, I'm throwing that out as conversation, and certainly something that I think, as that interview comes up, if we could make note of a couple of those things, I'd love to hear what Mike's reaction to those would be.
Okay. All right.
So, thanks.
Okay. We need to move on here.
I know.
Okay. Let's. We got Dave's a daily dose to play for you. I don't know what this one's about. It's always a surprise to me what he comes up with.
I had a hard time choosing. He sent me like 4 or 5 of those, I think. So
yeah. So let's hear what he's got to say. Dave's daily dose. This is David Punt out of Minnesota, COS State Director in Minnesota.
The Daily Signal reports that President Trump will take to the airwaves Thursday night with a whole team of administrative mouthpieces to talk about elections, specifically the election in 2020 that went to Joe Biden. Apparently, there was information that was classified at the time that's now been unclassified. Would it have been classified information that Uncle Joe's deck had only 42 cards, not including the jokers? This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. The announcement will give all the loony lefty mainstream Democrat media members time to repeat ad nauseum that our election system is pure as the driven snow, except for the 1 or 2 illegal aliens who mistakenly fill out the registration form and then mistakenly sign up by accident and then accidentally vote or appear to vote. But it's strictly a rumor. Here in the land of frozen fruits and nuts, our election people still refuse to hand over the voting list to the federal government, insisting that there's nothing wrong with them. But just to check, Minnesota Secretary of State Stevie Simon decided to check the system and got all his helpers in the 87 Minnesota counties to check theirs too. And it's almost perfect. Almost. They found that if your election was won or lost by 3,000 votes or less, it might have been because someone somewhere voted twice, or voted with their dead relatives' registration, or voted on the day of election and really didn't live at the address they put down on the form. There were a couple of folks who were recently grabbed up from a neighboring state to return to the home of my birth to face the music for election fraud. And the lady in a neighboring town who used her dead mother's mail-in ballot, but just once. Or was it twice? 3 times? Trump and his cohorts probably won't talk about 3,000 extra illegal voters in Minnesota on Thursday. Or they could. Minnesota is one of 50 states. How many fake voter registration cards are floating around out there? This could be the beginning to finding out. I'm David Allen Punt.
Well, he's a little bit late on that, but still.
Yeah, and maybe that's my fault for not totally getting the timing down on that one. But yeah, food for thought.
Food for thought. That's right. It's the tip of the iceberg, I believe. Tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard, Ken, of a study called Museums as a Site for Social Action Toolkit? Have you
Oh
ever
my.
heard of that?
I have to admit, I've never heard that.
It's Mass Action Toolkit is the shorter version of it, but Museums as a Site for Social Action Toolkit.
Hmm.
Well, this was brought to my attention recently in a legislative hearing in Washington, D.C. that was aired. And they were interviewing or talking to the director of the Smithsonian Institute.
Uh-huh.
And Brandon Gill, the representative out of Texas, is so good at this stuff. He's really good at asking the questions, but he grilled this director on some of the things that the Mass Action Toolkit, which the Smithsonian didn't create this toolkit, but they've adopted it, and basically it pushes social change and wokeism, and that's what he was trying to bring to the surface. So I never heard about this, so I decided to look into it, and I put together a little presentation on it. So I thought we would wind up this evening with this little presentation that I put together on the Mass Action Toolkit. Okay, Mass Action Toolkit, museums. Let's get right to it. Let me share my screen here, and we'll get going here. So as soon as I can get it to the right spot, we'll get it going here. All right. Okay. I'm just about there. All right, you ought to have a nice picture, and I'm able to see some notes that I've made here, so we'll get going. Tonight, we're asking whether museums should primarily preserve history or also serve as agents of social change. This is not an attack on museums. I appreciate museums and their educational value. The question is where education ends and advocacy begins. Why this matters. Museums influence how millions of Americans understand our nation's history and culture. Certainly had a big influence on me as I was growing up. Because many receive public support, it is reasonable to ask how they present history and ideas. The traditional mission. Traditionally, museums preserve artifacts, educate the public, protect historical records, and present his history as accurately and completely as possible. Well, a changing philosophy. Some museum professionals have advocated expanding museums' role to include social justice, equity, and activism. Supporters see this as making museums more relevant. Critics worry it can blur the line between education and advocacy. What is this Mass Action Toolkit? The Mass, M-A-S-S, the Mass Action Toolkit was developed by museum professionals as guidance for institutions interested in diversity, equity, accessibility, inclusion, and community engagement. It encourages museums to examine institutional practices through these lenses. Some questions. Should publicly funded museums advocate particular social viewpoints? How can museums distinguish education from activism? Who decides which interpretations receive emphasis? Why this matters. The answers affect public trust, education of future generations, taxpayer accountability, and citizens' understanding of American history and civics. You know, museums belong to all Americans. They should preserve history accurately, encourage critical thinking, and allow visitors to reach their own conclusions. An informed citizenry is essential to constitutional self-government. Just like we say here, an informed citizen is America's greatest strength. Well, thank you for tuning in. I hope you've appreciated this presentation, educational, Mass Action Toolkit. This became evident to me during a legislative hearing recently involving the Smithsonian Institute. So that's why I wanted to delve into this, and hopefully we've all learned something from this, what the Mass Action Toolkit is all about. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Well, I hope that was educational.
I believe it where it was, Dale. I forgot I was going to be muted there, so I had to get caught up. But yeah.
I went to one of the things as a kid. This is back in the 50s. Our parents took us to Washington, D.C. and got to go through the Smithsonian Institute. And I had a big bearing on me. I learned a great deal. It was very, very good. So I really, I've always enjoyed museums, and it is it is a question. You know, at what point do you start leaving the actual facts and you get into social issues? And I think it is a question. It is a question that everyone needs to be concerned about. So, Ken, that's pretty much it for this evening for us. Let's start then closing down. Okay.
Sounds good.
The way to find us the best way is to find our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. And there, once again, American Patriots for Convention of States. There you'll find the current broadcast as well as past programs. And Ken, I think you're going to post a link.
I will do that. Yep.
Everyone to see. And
in the chat.
So
yep.
That's the best way to find us. If you have any questions or comments about tonight's broadcast, feel free to drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. Best way to find us. Well, Ken, before we let Maringo Mike say goodnight to us here, you got anything else that comments or questions or anything that we need to address?
No, nothing else come up. I think we hit the main couple of questions tonight, and certainly had some good viewership and participation tonight. So yeah, maybe we'll get some more email from it. We'll see.
All right, folks. That'll be it for tonight. Tune in next Monday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back with another program. Got some good content lined up for you next Monday night. And so looking forward to seeing you all at that time. So everyone, have a good night. Thanks, Ken.
Good night, Dale. Thanks. Good night, people.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider